All right, so what I have here is the last lesson in chapter 1, looking at just order of operations with various rational numbers. And if you look at this expression down here, yeah, it looks kind of intimidating perhaps, but remember something that is definitely review, which is when we start to have multiple operations, the order that we perform those operations matters. And the first thing we always want to look for are there any brackets? And in this case, there aren't. Well, sorry, there's a bracket right here around the 6, but that doesn't really make a difference. But what matters is that everything you see highlighted in here is inside brackets. So I want to do that first, but there's a whole bunch of stuff to do there. So, okay, there are brackets there, but really there's so much going on inside there, and I need to think about, okay, inside these brackets, what do I have to do next? Well, after that we look for exponents. And so I will say here's an exponent, but it's everything inside the brackets being raised to the power of 2. And so I can't yet actually multiply that part until I know what's inside the brackets. And so again, that power of 2, I can't really deal with that yet until I know what's going on inside these brackets. And there's a lot of stuff going on inside there. So still, I haven't really actually done anything yet. Next, it's divide or multiply. So again, really whatever comes first from left to right. So now I have some stuff to do. If I look inside the brackets here, because again, I have to figure out what's inside the brackets before I raise it all to the power of 2. I don't have any division, but I do have, I don't have any division, but I do have multiplication right there. So let's focus on what 0.2 times 6 is. And again, at this point, I'm fine with using a calculator. But 0.2 times 6 is 1.2. So I have the square root of 5.5 minus 1.2. Minus 4.1, and all of this is to the power of 2. Okay, so there's my first little step. Other than that, if you look at what's left here, there's no more multiplication. There's no division anywhere. And I still have all this stuff inside the brackets, and all that stuff inside the brackets still has to be raised to the power of 2, which leads me to the last things I need to look at, which is addition or subtraction. And so in here, I have some subtraction going on inside there, inside my square root. Now a square root, in fact, maybe up here for exponents, I'll put exponents slash, the proper word is radicals, but I'll put roots. As you'll learn in grade 10, actually, that square roots and cube roots are actually all related to exponents. But again, at this point, I still need to figure out what 5.5 minus 1.2 is first. And so at this point, I'm going to go 5.5 minus 1.2. And then I'm going to find the square root of that. So I have 4.3. The square root of 4.3. All that's minus 4.1. All that's squared, and then the minus right there. Okay, so now things are going to start getting a bit faster. So now I want to find the square root of 4.3. The square root of 4.3 is not a perfect square, or I should say 4.3 is not a perfect square, so I have 1.2 minus, the square root of 4.3 is about 2.0, I'll round it to 2.074 minus 4.1, but again, all of this is inside brackets. Now I want to subtract that, and again, I'm ignoring this subtraction right here, because again, I can't actually deal with that till I have figured out what's in the brackets, which is all being squared. And so next, I want to go this 2.074 minus 4.1, which again, I am rounding at this point. So this is about negative 2.026. And if I want to be really picky, as soon as I went from this step to this step, I actually rounded. The square root of 4.3 is not exactly 2.074. So sometimes we can show that we're rounding now, or it's an approximation, by putting a little dot over the equal sign. So at this point, everything is an approximation, but everything there is being squared. So now I finally figured out what everything inside these brackets is. So now I can square it. So negative 2.026 times itself. And I just have the number in my calculator still, so I'm just going to take all that and times it by itself, or power of 2. So all of that there is now about the same as 1.2 minus 4.101 about. So I've squared all this now. And finally, I go 1.2 minus that. And I get about negative 2.9, again, I'm rounding, say 9.1, I'll round it to. Now, I will say as well, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Depending on your calculator, you may be able to just type this all in at once. And so it really depends on your proficiency and kind of confidence with the particular calculator you have. And if you're always using the same one, if you're using a calculator you're familiar with, or whatnot. So if I type this all into my calculator right now, which is what I'm doing as I'm speaking, but I got to be really careful because there's a lot of stuff going on here. But if I type it all in, I just hit equals, and so I get something that rounds to negative 2.91. And so honestly, what I care about is that you understand the order of operations. But if you can do this all at once on your calculator, that is great. But also make sure you understand how to get to it without a calculator. Make sure you understand both. If I just want to calculate this, yeah, use a calculator. But we also want to understand what the calculator is doing. There's a lot of stuff going on here. And so again, order of operations, bed mass, I'm sure you've heard before. But again, when there's a lot of stuff going on, we just got to be careful step by step.